Hello, I'm Andi C. Buchanan, and today I'm going to be reading from my novella From a Shadow Grave, which is published by Paper Road Press. It's a ghost story, a bit urban fantasy, a bit time travel, a bit historical fiction, and it's set in Wellington. And I'm going to read you a section right from the beginning. All ghost stories start with endings, but you are a woman, not a story, a woman stumbling your way into adulthood in a world of music and hunger. Let's start with you, not him. Let's start with, perhaps, the music you play on your gramophone that you won't sell even though you should, because music eases the pangs of hunger more than the money it's worth. Let's start with how you danced in the park on the damp grass with your friends when you can't afford to go out, or the smell of the leather seats on the long train rides between Napier and Wellington. Your house is on Mortimer Terrace, close enough to walk to the pictures on Dixon Street. Now that most of your brothers and sisters have left, you no longer feel squashed. You have a room to yourself, except for when there are visitors. And in the morning you sit at the table before your mother wakes up, listening to the tui calling from the trees behind. Your father has finally agreed to let you leave school, and it's as if years of tension have just fallen from your body, your muscles loose, your joints no longer heavy. You begged over and over, not thinking it would happen. And then one evening he said that as long as you worked and paid your keep, he wasn't going to stand in your way. You were never the sort of girl who hugged your parents, but you did then, fighting back tears. No more shame for how your letters came out crooked or back to front, even though you could have sworn they were right. Never again would a teacher bang angrily on your desk when you failed to read a passage, despite willing the letters to return to the paper and not dance around above it. You tried telling them once that the letters wouldn't stay still, and your teacher told you to stop being ridiculous, that you were just lazy, and maybe you needed to point under the words with your finger like you were still a young child. After that, you pretended not to care. But now all that is behind you. You have no illusions, you know things will not be easy, but there's a difference in your mind between things you have to work hard at and things you will never be able to do no matter how much you try. You already have some housekeeping work lined up and you're asking around for more. One day, if you can't be a film star, which you suppose at this point you can't, you want to work in a shop like one of the girls on the makeup counter at Kirk's. There's a future for you where once you could see none. You've been out of school for 2 years when you meet George Coates. By now you know for sure that you can never be a film star, and the skin on your fingers is raw and brittle from scrubbing floors. You take work when you can get it, and you give most of your earnings to your parents as board. On good weeks you have enough left over to go to the pictures. On bad weeks you struggle to string jobs together and have to walk instead of getting the tram. The depression is setting in, and the newspapers carry reports of men in America throwing themselves from skyscrapers, mothers in Europe pushing wheelbarrows of worthless cash. But this is Wellington, and what happens here is less dramatic. The unemployment lines get longer, and people who would once have paid you to scrub their floors now get down on their own hands and knees. You're secretly pleased that they'll discover how hard it is. George is assigned to the public works near your house, building the road through to Durham Street. Your mother sends you to deliver pots of tea and even baking, when there's money for extra sugar, to the workers, because she says it's good to remember that there are always people having it harder than yourself. You grumble, but it's the only thing she tells you to do that you do without real complaint. The men crowd around you and tell you that you're a pretty young thing. It makes you feel special. George makes you feel even more special. You're used to being thought of as plain as well as sly, but he takes a shine to you, always has a smile and a wink as he takes his tea. He asks you to go to the pictures and you blush and quietly say yes. I don't know many people round here, he says. I'm so lucky to have met you. You look at the newspaper to see what's on at the King's, but he says he wants to take you to the Paramount because they have sound there now and he'll walk you there. Your heart leaps and you plan how to get yourself ready. Your makeup bag is sparse, a couple of lipsticks you shoplifted on a dare, a bottle of nail polish, old eyeshadow. You will make do. You remember what your friend Eileen told you about makeup when you go with a boy, that you should wear just enough to look like you've made an effort with your appearance, but not so much he can tell what you've used. So you apply a soft pink to your lips, fasten fake pearls around your neck, heat your curling iron in the fire and make just the ends of your hair curl inwards. You look in the mirror. You could almost like yourself. After that, you and George meet often on weekends and go for milkshakes, and you save any spare pennies in a tin under your mattress so you can go to the pictures. You go to the Paramount or the King's, depending on what's playing and where the cheap night is. You see Hell's Angels and Anna Christie, and you fall in love with everything you see. George likes music as well, and sometimes the two of you stand in a shop doorway just to hear the last of a song on the radio inside. He can make you laugh and make the lingering demons of your childhood melt away. Your childhood was being told you were stupid by your teachers and lazy by your parents, and more than that, you seem to have been born with a voice inside you that tells you how bad you are, tells you that you're stupid or ugly or worthless at every turn. For the first time, here is someone who contradicts that voice. He can't silence it, but you hear now that you're pretty as well as ugly, that you're charming, not manipulative, that there are lots of different ways to be clever. When you're with him, it feels like you want to be alive. After you see Age of Gold, he kisses you briefly on the lips. It's the sort of kiss that is quick enough that those around you aren't scandalised, but very definitely a kiss of romance. The sort of kiss that would make your mother throw a fit if she knew, and you look anxiously around for any possible carriers of gossip. It wasn't your first kiss, but they had just been boys who would kiss any girl, say they liked you, and move on to someone else by the weekend. You'd kissed boys and you'd kissed your friend Hannah Erickson, just as practice, of course, so you knew what to do when you kissed a boy for real, but you never kissed a man before. You have a man now and you glow with satisfaction. You kiss in doorways or behind trees, darting into lanes, anywhere you can steal a moment to yourselves. It makes you feel grown up, light-headed, like you're on top of the world, and the melancholy that has haunted you for so many years dissipates. It stays away for hours, stays away until you're back home alone in the room you used to share with your sisters. Then the voice creeps back to say you got everything wrong and he couldn't possibly like a silly, ugly girl like you. But when you're with him, it's all excitement and raw energy. He sneaks you into the boarding house sometimes, locks the door of the bunk room he shares with 3 other men, and when your parents are out, you let him into your bedroom. I've got some news for you, he says one evening as you're buttoning up your blouse. I'm being transferred. Your face betrays your fear. As soon as you'd found someone who cared about you, he leaves. He sees your panic and laughs. Oh, don't worry your pretty head. I'm only going to Mount Victoria, working on the tunnel through from Hataitai. You can walk over and see me. It won't even take you an hour. And I wouldn't say no if you wanted to bring me some lunch now and again. And you do. You scrape margarine onto white bread, try to put some meat in there when you can, and if not, a smear of jam or a slice of cheese. Every day feels harder, but you tell yourself that if it's hard for you, then it's far harder for the men out on the work projects, doing back-breaking heavy work all day on too little food. Your trips to the pitches grow less frequent, though you put aside money for them even when you don't have enough to eat, because you feel they sustain you more than food. The glamour of the screen, the excitement of the first talkies, the lines you repeat under your breath as you try to sleep, movies have become as much food for your soul as music. When you can't afford a milkshake or a movie, you walk. You walk along the waterfront or up over Mount Victoria or Brooklyn Hill, around the Botanic Garden by the cable car. George holds your hand in public even though people give you disapproving looks, and you're at once hungry for him and confused. You walk up and down the city's hills and you feel both free and captive, all at the same time. It's on one of these walks that you stop in the park on Brooklyn Hill, sit on a low wall for a bit, and he takes a breath, and confesses his past. Thanks for listening.